Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the video forum that we are discussing the issues surrounding informed consent and why we should have it. So I'm going to start with my resources. I chose a book from Berg and Applebaum, 2001, Informed Consent, Legal Theory and Clinical Practice, second edition, Oxford University Press. And I also used our textbook, Rimley and Hurtley, 2016, Ethical, Legal, and Professional Issues in Counseling, New York, Parson Education. And the informed consent that I pulled off of the internet was from True North, which is a Christian counseling clinical practice area. So after reviewing their informed consent, the counseling services for True North Christian Therapeutic Counseling Center decided that their counseling services, they laid out a brief description as to what the Christian counseling principles stand for and how they implement them into the therapeutic relationship. The confidentiality statement states that confidentiality will be kept to its utmost ethical standards according to all the professional organizations and the ACA Code of Ethics. However, that they will break confidentiality on two terms, whether they're going to commit suicide, self-harm themselves, or self-harm other individuals. In that way, confidentiality can be broken. Appointments, it gives you a brief description of how much the appointments cost and the time limit of each appointment. And also emergency accessibility. It gives you information as to who you will allow in an emergency type of situation, whether or not you are giving consent to actually give those records to someone else. That was the informed consent form that I pulled off from True North. In comparing and contrasting to the other resources, the ACA Code of Ethics states that clients have the freedom to choose whether to enter into or remain in a counseling relationship and need adequate information about the counseling process and the counselor. Counselors have an obligation to review in writing and verbally with clients the rights and responsibilities of both counselors and clients. Informed consent is an ongoing part of the counseling relationship. So how I took that to compare and contrast to what was in the informed consent is that informed consent is a continual process. So every time you enter into a new treatment, another informed consent has to be signed. So if you go from an outpatient setting to an inpatient setting, there's another informed consent that has to be signed. If you are trying new therapeutic techniques or another theory, an informed consent has to be signed. And legally, an individual has to know all circumstances surrounding what's going to happen in the therapeutic relationship or what's going to happen in the treatment. According to Florida state laws, each patient entering treatment shall be asked to give, express, and informed consent for admission of treatment. So basically, the main informed consent that the state of Florida, harps on is the fact that every time a new therapeutic relationship or a new therapeutic treatment is rendered, a new informed consent has to be applied to the setting. And then according to another resource that I used, the one by Berg and Applebaum, 2001, they stated that informed consent refers to legal rules that prescribe behaviors of physicians and other healthcare professionals in their interactions with patients and provide for penalties under given circumstances. If physicians deviate from those expectations to ethical doctrine rooted in our society's cherished value of autonomy, that promotes patients' right of self-determination regarding medical treatment, and 2, an interpersonal process whereby these parties interact with each other in select an appropriate course of medical care. So in stating that, what I've learned in comparing and contrasting all of the resources that I have utilized, I have learned that informed consent has a lot more legal obligations that back it, and that informed consent is a must, particularly if you're going to stand up in a court of law and show all the proper documentation for informed consent. My question is with all the information out there, and because all the states differ on organizations and rules and regulations and so on and so forth, what is a good resource to use when you are going to put informed consent forms together for your own practice? Where would you go to know that what you've put into that consent form is legally correct by the state of Florida? Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.